Hi, my name is Ben. This is Board Game Dad, and I just got back from PAX Unplugged. This was a bit of a surprise for me because it probably isn't a surprise to you, but I spend a lot of time researching board games, especially family board games. And I very recently put together a list, gift giving guide, trying to like finish out the year 2022. So I was doing all of this research into the best new family games, and sometimes I get to a point where it feels like I've played them all. I know that's probably ridiculous, but when you spend enough time playing and researching games, you start to feel like, yeah, you know what? I think I've heard of everything. I go to PAX, and I find 6 new games that I'm very excited to take home. So, by the way, though, if you haven't seen my most recent video, you can check out this one. I will leave a link in the description. This is a list of all of the new games I very recently researched, and I organized them by age group. I was really excited about that list, and it's not too late to check it out if you want to give some gifts. Anyway, let's talk about what's new. So, here we go. I went to PAX with my daughters, and my intention was to find the games that they were interested in. I just really wanted to have a good weekend. I just wanted to have a good weekend playing with them, seeing what they wanted to try out, and just like have some fun. So I thought, maybe I'll buy one or two. We found a lot of games that we were really interested in, and the first one I want to show you is called Bites. Bites. So Bites came out in 2020, and it plays 2 to 5 players. This is put out by Board Game Tables. Now, Board Game Tables is one of my favorite companies. They create, let's see, they make mountain goats, which I am not, I want to show it to you. Well, they make mountain goats. I've been recommending mountain goats for a really long time. I think it's a brilliant little game that anybody can approach, but it's got some really enriching material in it. And of course, I'm always looking for family board games that aren't just fun, but are also enriching for children. So they have a few like very small boxes, GPS, mountain goats, Sequoia. They recently came out with dandelions. These are all very small, but I haven't really tried any of their larger box games. And, well, except for one that I discovered in Essen, and I ended up taking home, but I'm going to get to that one last. Bites was entirely new to me. Anyway, in Bites, you are managing an ant hill, and you have these little ants, and you set up a trail of food, and all of the food has different colors. So apples are red, and green peppers are green, and bread is brown, and so on. And then you've got ants that match all of the colors. So you've got a red ant and a brown ant and a green ant, etc. And so you set all this food up in a trail, and on a player's turn, they can move any ant. It's not like a game where you are the red color or you're the green color. You can move any color ant, and you can move it along the trail until it gets to the next food of its matching color. And when it lands there, you can take the food that's in front of the ant or behind the ant. So that means you could move the red ant, but take a green food or take a purple food. And you add this food to your collection, and people are doing this. They're moving ants along the trail, and then eventually an ant will get to the end of the trail and into the anthill. When the ant gets to the anthill, then it takes its position on the anthill, and that becomes the number of victory points for the matching color of food. So if the red ant gets to the anthill first, that means all red food is worth 4 points. So what makes this so very interesting is in order to move an ant, you usually take a color of food that doesn't match the ant. So the ant is getting closer to the finish, and possibly its color of food is becoming worth more victory points. But when you move an ant, you can only take food that doesn't match that color. And you have to pay attention to what other players are trying to do in order to figure out, well, which ant is probably going to finish the track first, and then how can I get that color of food. It's just a really interesting mechanic. It's so simple, and then what they've done is they've added all of these extra cards to mix up the gameplay. So there are special rules, there are like special like power cards that you can use without going too much more into it. But the core mechanic there is just moving an ant and taking the food. I loved it. My kids really enjoyed it. And you know what? I've got to show this really quick. The components for this game are fantastic. It came with these cardboard punch-outs like you would normally see, but the cardboard pieces are actually glued together. So a chocolate, like if you can see this, it's actually 2 layers of cardboard, and it creates this 3-dimensional effect. Let me show you a green pepper that comes through. See how that like little depth is added? I really like these components. They're nice and heavy. The ants are made out of wood. I'm not going to take them out of the bag, but they're made out of wood. The whole thing is just an incredibly well done game. It's elegant. This is the kind of game I would rate very, very highly for mechanics. And then it's thinky. Like it's totally strategy. You know, you're not rolling any dice. You're just moving ants and trying to figure out what other players are doing. It's such an enriching game to play with any age of people. And in fact, I think the box says it's for 6 and up, but you could play as young as 4. It's got this. Oh my goodness, the box says 14 and up. Based on the variation that you can add, I would think that you can play this with much younger kids. The woman who was there, when she saw that I was with my children, she said she played it with her 4-year-old. All she had to do was remove some of the bonus effects and some of the other effects in the game in order to simplify it a little bit. But there's so much you can do to add replayability. This is an excellent, excellent purchase, especially for families. By the way, this game and other games, they all have links in the description. So if you'd like to check it out, you can go ahead and take a look at the link. So the next game I got, we saw this one on display. I think this is the first one that we purchased. It's called Kabuto Sumo. It's also by Board Game Tables. We were at the same booth when we picked it up. And if you've looked at my family game list, the gift guide, I talked about a game called Ice, Flows, and Foes, about moving tiles around and causing them to fall off the game. And this is very similar to that mechanic. What you're trying to do is wrestle with insects. And so I think I'm just going to hold up the picture. But the table looks like this. You've got all these little discs. And then what you're doing is you're pushing a disc onto the table, and any discs that fall off the table go into your inventory. So if you can push off more discs, you'll have more discs for future turns. Now there's 2 ways to win. One way to win is to push off your opponent, who is a little beetle, little wooden beetle. The other way you can win is by having your opponent run out of discs. So whether you're pushing off other beetles or just other plain discs, both are necessary in order to win the game. You'll be exhausted if you run out of discs in your inventory. Now, this is very similar to Ice, Flows, and Foes, but I think, and I didn't end up purchasing Ice, Flows, and Foes for myself, though. I think the reason why I wanted to go with this is because this game has something very unique. Each beetle that you play with, I think this is worth taking out. Each beetle that you play with, there we go, has special powers and special pieces. So you can have 4 different beetles, each with its own player power, and each with its own signature piece. So like the Spanish fly has this huge insect that you can use, and there are conditions that you need to meet in order to pull out these pieces. This is like a cactus beetle or bug or something. What is this? A stag beetle has this cool pincer thing that you can put onto the board. I love the variable player powers in this game. So we played that yesterday for the first time, and the kids loved it. The only thing I would say, though, is that they didn't really want, my kids didn't want to beat each other. They wanted to team up and make, well, actually, they wanted to make the game last, actually. They didn't want it to end, which is why I think there's an advantage to ice flows and foes. Ice flows and foes, you're trying to eliminate poachers. Everybody wants to get rid of a poacher, but you're playing this wrestling game, and you kind of don't want to like, oh, I don't want to like knock you off. My kids aren't very aggressive like that. So depending on if you want to be aggressive or not, one of those two games may be better for you. Okay, the next game is called Psychic Pizza Deliverers Go to the Ghost Town, which is a little bit older. It actually came out in 2018, and I have never heard of it before. This game is the first game that I've ever purchased that one player can't win. One player is the mayor of the ghost town, and the mayor of the ghost town is like the game master. They have all of the information, and they're kind of the guide for every other player. So that makes this game a little different, and if you're not into that, if you want a game where everybody can compete, you might not like this one. But aside from that, I really, really like what's being done here. I'm going to open the box. Hey, Andrew. Thanks for dropping in. Oh, boy. There's kind of a lot of stuff in here. All right. Well, the mayor of the ghost town prepares a grid. There it is. Okay. So they prepare a little grid, and what they're doing is they're putting in ghosts and little houses and pizzas and the whole grid and fences, and the whole grid is filled with these obstacles. And then every other player can see or has a dry erase board with nothing on it at all. What they're doing is they're using their dry erase marker, and they're moving one direction or another. They say to the mayor, I want to move to the west. And then the mayor takes the little figurine, the little pizza deliverer that corresponds to that player, moves them to the west, and tells the player who represents that pizza deliverer what obstacles are around them. So they might say, there's a fence to your north, and there are 3 ghosts around you, or there are 2 pizza boxes, or there is 1 house around you. And then the players are using their dry erase board to make little symbols to show where their information is. Now, initially they just have hints, so they're putting down the numbers, like 1 house, 2 ghosts, 1 pizza, right? And as they get more and more information, more hints from the mayor, they can infer the location of the houses, the pizzas, and the ghosts. And they also have cards that they can play in order to gain a special ability. What they're trying to do is find a pizza and then deliver it to the right house. But they can't see anything. They have to do everything by inferring from the hints that are given to them. I think it's such a clever puzzle and such a cute implementation of theme. You know, I rate these games on theme all the time, and my big complaint is that a game will have a theme, but then the mechanics don't support the theme. And I can tell you what they did for this game. They definitely started with what they wanted the game to be. They wanted a game where you had to figure out what was around you and everything else. And then they're like, well, what's a good theme for this game? They matched the theme to the mechanics and not the other way around. And as a result, I really think it's perfect. I mean, you're trying to find what you need in order to get to the house. You're delivering a pizza, and you don't know where anything is, but you have this connection with the ghost mayor, and you can get your hints. I just thought it was brilliant. Pizza deliverers arrive or go to the ghost town. Psychic pizza deliverers go to the ghost town. All right. That was game number 3. 3. Bites, Kabuto, Sumo, pizza deliverers. We're going to go on to 4. Okay, this one really surprised me. People who've watched this channel know that I'm famous for my dislike of Everdell, right? Well, we walked away with My Lil Everdell, which I haven't opened yet, but I did a 60-second overview on what makes My Lil Everdell different from the original Everdell. Basically, I'll go over it again really briefly. So, in the original Everdell, you know that you can either place a worker or you can play a card, and then you get more workers as the game goes on, and of course you have a bigger engine for getting more resources so that you can play more cards. So each round is longer than the previous round because you have more that you can do. What My Lil Everdell does is it streamlines it by giving you 3 workers and 4 rounds, and on your turn you can place a worker and, if you wish, buy 1 card. But you can only buy a card after playing a worker, so that means you only will ever get 12 actions and 12 cards. Period. That's all. Really simplifies the gameplay. The other big thing that's different is in Everdell you can chain cards together. So you can get the location, and then if you have the proper location for the matching critter, you can add the critter for free. There is no benefit in this game where you can add something for free because you can only add a card after playing an action. So it just, again, it kind of just keeps the game a little bit shorter. It can play a lot faster, and I think that's what makes me most satisfied about My Lil Everdell. I'm not going to talk about original Everdell and why I don't think it's the best, but basically I feel like it, very briefly, it's too long for too little action that's actually significant. This game has the same mechanics, but it's so much shorter that it's much more satisfying. You can play it, you can get that taste of Everdell, and then you don't have to play for 2 hours. You can play for 30 minutes and be done with it. So that was actually very satisfying to play. I haven't played it again with my wife, but when I played with the kids, they picked it up immediately. They really enjoyed it. You can buy that one on Starling's website. Also, there are links in the description. I did see, though, that it's not available on Amazon, so because it came out on Thursday. It was, like, launched at PAX Unplugged. Very new. This game, Boop, is also brand new. It came out this year. Boop really surprised me. This is by the same company, Smirk and Laughter Games, that does the Spill, which I also talked about in the family gift giving guide. Boop is a really simple, and I'm just going to show the picture of it, but it's a simple and abstract game. So this reminded me a lot of a game like, oh man, I get these blanks when I'm on the video. Santorini. There's too many games I have that start with an S. Santorini. So if you like Santorini, this reminded me a lot like it, where it's a really simple abstract mechanic, and then there are all these like cool implications that you kind of have to figure out as you play. What's happening is you're trying to place your kittens on the mat in such a way, it's a square grid. You're trying to place them so that they form 3 in a row. And every time you place a new kitten, it boops the kittens that are next to it, which means every kitten next to it moves 1 space away from the newly placed kitten. So, and you're trying to get 3 in a row, right? So imagine you've got 2 kittens and a space right between them. Well, what you want to do is get 3 in a row, so naturally you'd like to put a kitten right between them, but when you do, the other kittens, let's see if I can do this with my fingers, move away. That's not... I almost feel like that was an obscene gesture. But they move away from the center kitten. So you can't just put 3 in a row because it'll always cause the kittens to spread out. Instead, what you have to do is boop the kittens into each other to make 3 in a row. And then, once you get 3 kittens in a row, they graduate and become cats. And the difference with cats is that cats can boop other cats and kittens, but kittens can't boop cats because they're too small. So once you get 3 cats in a row, you win. This is a very interesting abstract game. I will say that even though my youngest daughter can play it, and she's 6, it's hard to play with her because, of course, if you are an adult and you're sophisticated and you've played strategy games or like chess before, you're going to come up with and be able to think farther ahead than your children will. You kind of have to take that into account. But I really thought it was a neat game mechanic, and the mathematician in me really likes to engage with these new things that I've never seen before. So I got Boop. Okay, I got 6 games. This is the last one. Now the last game, this is not a family game, all right? I actually played this game for the first time in Essen, and I picked it up because I really enjoyed it, and I had wished that I bought it in Essen. It's again from Board Game Tables. It is QE, which came out in 2020. In QE, you are central banks of different countries. And what you are trying to do after a crash is buy out all of the banks and the other industries that have failed. So the way you do this is it's a bidding game. Every round, a new company will come out, and all of the different countries, all of the different players are going to bid on the new company. And they've got objectives too. So they get different victory points based on which companies they get. So everybody places or they write out how much money they want to bid. They put it to the auctioneer. People rotate who's the auctioneer. And then the auctioneer awards the company to whoever paid the most money. Okay, that's pretty simple, and you get to keep it. It's a very simple mechanic. There's only one twist. Because you are central banks, you get to print your own money, and you can write a bid for as much money as you want. And this is interesting because the scale of every game can be different. You can play one game where players are bidding tens of dollars, and you can play another game where players are bidding billions of dollars. It literally doesn't matter. However, the catch is, if you are the player who bid the most money altogether, you automatically lose. You cannot win if you bid the most money. Too much inflation in your country. So you kind of have to figure out what other players are doing, because once an auction is over and the company is awarded to whoever bid the most, you'll know who got the money, but you won't know how much they bid. So you put in a bid for $3 million and you lose. Well, you don't know how much the other player bid, but you know it was more than $3 million. So you kind of have to figure, okay, well, how much more can I spend to not spend more than the other players based on the information that I've been following so far. I think it was just a really interesting, easy to teach, it almost feels like a party game, but a little bit headier than that, which is why I liked it. So I picked it up. Those are the games. Now there's one bonus game that I wanted to mention, because I really get excited when I find really good games for young players. This game was not available to buy. If it was, I would have purchased it. It is called Magic Mountain. In Magic Mountain, oh man, I wonder if I can I'm going to see if I can transfer this file over and show it in the video. Oh, no, I won't be able to. Well, Magic Mountain is a slope. Maybe what I can do is just show it off my phone. This is kind of lame, but okay, here we go. See, there's a slope, and what's happening is they're going to drop a ball down the slope. There we go. See the ball getting stuck? There it goes. All right, so what's happening is you're trying to get witches to move to the bottom of the slope. And the way you move a witch is you drop a ball down the slope, and if the ball hits a witch, then the witch gets to move to the next space matching the color of the ball. So you drop a red ball, the witch that it hits gets to move to the next red space. You want to save the blue witches by getting them all the way down the mountain. You don't want the black witches to get all the way down the mountain. So this is a cooperative game where players take turns dropping a ball. They can pick which part of the slope they want to drop it down. And then there's a little bit of element of luck as the ball hits different obstacles and goes left or right. And hopefully you've placed the ball and it hits blue witches. But if it hits a black witch, you just try to get more blue before the blacks. Really simple cooperative game. You cannot play this game wrong, no matter how old you are. You could be a baby, and all you have to do is drop a ball. The decision making comes from which path do I want to drop it down, and based on the color of the ball that was drawn from the bag, you can kind of like aim for the witch, and hopefully by encountering it, it'll move really far. Like kind of like Candyland, right? Where you know that if you draw a red card, well, sometimes a red card means you can move one space, and other times you can move 13 spaces. Hopefully you're trying to make the witches move very, very far by dropping a ball that hits them, and the next color of that matching color is very, very far ahead in the witches advance. It's kind of the aim. I really liked it. Thought, wow, what a brilliant game for little kids. So I want to share that too. That's what we learned at PAX. I will be away for Christmas, so there will be a few more videos coming before we take off. I'm definitely going to try to make some full-length reviews of the games that I just shared with you. You know what? Oh man, I hope I don't buy any more games this year because my shelves are so full. We've got stuff under the tree too. Well, anyway, thank you for watching. Thanks for